Hello. Welcome. We're about to start. We have our technology ready. Welcome to the opening of the Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry's new exhibition, Hecho in Puerto Rico, 4 Generations of Puerto Rican Puppetry. My name is John Bell. I'm the director of the Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. And we have with us here, just arrived from La Isla and from New York, our co-curators, Deborah Hunt and Manuel Moran, who will be guiding us through the exhibition in a matter of mere moments. We're really excited about this exhibit. I'm thinking it's the first exhibition, survey exhibition of Puerto Rican puppetry ever to happen in Los Estados Unidos. Okay, so before we get going, I wanted to turn things over and welcome the Dean of the School of Fine Arts, Anne DeLeva, who is at home and will be joining us through the magic of the internet. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you so much, John. Bienvenido, everyone. Welcome to the museum. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but my heart is there. I am so excited about this exhibition, and I've been excited to see it unfold over the past months. It is, as John said, it's the first exhibition, as far as we know, of Puerto Rican puppetry, and it has so much importance. It has scholarly importance, it has artistic importance, and it has importance for our community. And to note that we have a very large and vibrant Puerto Rican community in the state of Connecticut and in the region. And so this is a really important and powerful connection to our larger community. UConn's great strength is collaboration, and we could not have undertaken this exhibition without the support and sponsorship of 2 very special institutes at the university, the Puerto Rican and Latin American Cultural Center, PERLAC, directed by our great friend Fanny Hanon, and El Instituto, our Latin American Studies Institute, directed by Professor Sam Martinez. They've been just instrumental, as they always are, great partners in helping us develop this exhibition. And a very warm welcome to our guest curators. And let me say, I have to, of course, recognize the Ballard and its incredible staff, the visionary John Bell, who does so much to uncover the histories and traditions of many forms of puppet arts. Emily Wicks, the manager of operations and collections. The Ballard could not run without her, and neither could the School of Fine Arts. She is a wonderful colleague. And of course, let me recognize a graduate of our puppet arts program and the exhibition designer, Matt Sorensen. So welcome, everyone. Bienvenido. I'm really excited to be here with you this evening. Thank you, John.
Great. Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. Thanks for your kind words. We totally appreciate your ongoing support of the Ballard Institute and puppetry at UConn. Our sister program is the Puppet Arts program directed by our colleague, Dr. Bart Rocco Burton. So I wanted to also thank Manuel and Deborah and Anne and Emily, as you mentioned, who's so essential for the Ballard Institute, and Matt Sorensen, who's done such a great job, as you'll see, designing this exhibition. Also, our Puppet Arts graduate student assistant, Staff Shear. She's been really helpful. Our undergraduate Waring Fellow, Sam Kendall, and Puppet Arts students, Kunzika and Ginny Ortley, and also our team of museum assistants who are students at the university, Marie Siguenza and Rachel Musavi, Andre Mastrandrea, excuse me, Andre, who did video editing for this exhibition, and Afsana Ulala, Julie Garay from the Puerto Rican Latin American Cultural Center, who helped us translate, and Zoe Gonzalez Lanza, who helped us translate, and also our good friend Rosa Luisa Marquez, who came in at the last minute to help us translate. We wanted to mention before we get into this introductory tour, very exciting, that this Saturday, November 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, there will be an online performance, part of our fall performance series of the Puppetry project. I'm standing next to Miguel Treyas's beautiful portrait of Puppetry, who you'll learn about in a minute. The Puppetry project by Teatro Sea via Zoom this Saturday at 11 a.m. And to learn more and make a reservation, you can visit our Facebook page, which you might be on right now. It's an event there, or visit bimp.ticketleap.com. Also, the week after the Thanksgiving break, which is what we're having here at the university, we will host Dr. Manuel Moran and Deborah Hunt and Pedro Adorno from Agua Soli Sereno and Tere Marichal for a 2021 online puppet forum titled Contemporary Puppetry in Puerto Rico. That's going to be Thursday, December 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to discuss the situation of Puerto Rican puppetry today and its possibilities for the future. So please join us for those two events. We'll be doing more events to come also in the spring semester when we hope to bring Agua Soli Sereno here and also Poncili Creacion. So now, I don't have his biography in my hand, but it's a big pleasure to introduce, I think, are you both going to, you want to, so could we see both of you come on out? Our co-curators, I think Manuel's going to start with a tour, but on my left, Deborah Hunt, and on my right, Manuel Moran. Manuel Moran is an amazing scholar and producer and director and actor with Teatro Sea and Society for Educational Arts in Manhattan, in New York City, and in Puerto Rico. And Deborah Hunt has their company Mask Hunt Productions, I think, in Puerto Rico, and as you'll see, has been doing amazing work in Puerto Rico. So welcome, Manuel, welcome, Deborah, and I'll turn this over to you, Manuel.
Thank you so much. We are very thankful and very excited to be included and to be given an opportunity to share Puerto Rican puppetry with all of you. The exhibition is stunning, by the way. You know, I've been working virtually with the designers, with John, with Emily, with Matthew, with Deborah, and I just arrived and I'm very pleased. And so I invite all of you to come to see this exhibition. That it will be here at the Ballard Museum until May. So you have the opportunity to come. So I'm also very happy and very thankful to all the puppeteers and the companies that decided to collaborate and to help us so we can put together this exhibition. So to all of you allá en Puerto Rico, a todas las compañías y a todos los titiriteros puertorriqueños, gracias. Gracias por colaborar conmigo y con Débora en esta exhibición, que es una exhibición histórica. Es la primera vez que presentamos una muestra fuera de Puerto Rico del teatro de títeres puertorriqueños. So I'm going to go from Spanish to English because I have a lot of people also watching in Puerto Rico. So we divided the whole exhibition, Deborah and I, into 4 different times. Actually, I would say 5, but we're calling 4 generations, and we're using the word generation not in the way of like a traditional generation, because we are a young theater and puppetry movement in Puerto Rico. So it's, we're going to basically, the exhibition covers 50 years. But before that first generation that started happening in the 60s, I will say, obviously there have been Puerto Rican puppetry even before the 50s. We can even go back to the indigenous people, using objects to, as in rituals and to perform. But really, as recorded history, the first puppets or the first puppetry that we find in recorded history in Puerto Rico is basically during the 50s and on. Before that, though, there was an amazing story. There's an amazing story, an amazing puppeteer, an amazing person, which is Puppetry. But it was in the diaspora. It was actually not in the island of Puerto Rico. It was here in Manhattan, the largest island of Puerto Rico, I would call it. So as many of you know, there was a big, immigration, from Puerto Ricans in the 1920s. And they settled in mostly in the Northeast, also, you know, in New York, but also as well in Chicago and in other places but the majority of the people settled in New York. And among these people, there was this amazing storyteller, author, and puppeteer called Pura Belpré. She came to New York in the 20s to visit her sister for her wedding sister, and she decided to stay. And when she discovered that there was no books in Spanish for kids in her neighborhood library, she decided to write the books for them. And she became a librarian, the first Puerto Rican librarian in the New York Public library system. And since the 20s on, she started doing storytelling with puppetry. And we don't have the original puppets. They are actually at the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College, but they're in not too great shape. Hopefully we're going to be working together to get those puppets back so that people can actually see the original puppets. But in Teatro Sea, we actually created some replicas. They were created by Jose Lopez, who is a Puerto Rican puppeteer, who was the puppet master for Teatro Sea for 30 years, and Ingrid Harris, she's our costume designer in residence in the company. And based on this iconic photo of Adal, which is a very famous Puerto Rican photographer, and it's part of the collection of the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter, we created with Jose and Ingrid these beautiful replicas. Those are hand puppets. As well, in our center, Clemente Sotoveles on the Lower East Side, we celebrate Puerto Rican Heritage Month, which we are celebrating Puerto Rican Heritage Month. It's November now. One of our resident artists there, Miguel Treyes, did this beautiful portrait painting based on the Adal photo right here. So we decided to open the exhibition, paying homage to, I call her the first recorded Puerto Rican puppeteer at the beginning of during the 20s last century. So the other generations, like we decided to divide it basically by 10 to 15 years, some cases 20 years. So starting from the 60s on, and we're going to be taking you through that so you can see. Deborah, you can actually be with me and we can actually talk a little bit about this. So I hope you guys are following us right here. We have a nice, photographs of all the close to 20 artists and companies from Puerto Rico and also from the diaspora that are included in this exhibition, Hecho en Puerto Rico. We continue. Where do we go? Shall we go this way? Yes. We're live. Just bear with us. Very good. So right here, let's start with our first generation. Well, maybe we should just talk about a little bit about Juan Bobo but let's start with the first generation. The first generation, I call it the first generations from 1960 to 1980. So it's 20 years. Let me just move the mic. Yes, right here, I'm sorry. So I'm a little more comfortable. And we are so lucky and so happy that Maestro Mario Donate decided to lend us historical puppets, probably the oldest puppets that we have in this exhibition, which are, puppets from the production Pluf El Fantasmita, Pluf the Ghost. These puppets were made by many puppeteers. It's not just one puppeteer. They were part of the training that the Department of Education provided, and the Department of Education, let me start again, sorry. The Department of Education that was created a program with the leadership of Dr. Leopoldo Santiago Lavandero, or Pordín, in the 60s, and he wanted to bring theater to the neighborhoods, to the schools. So he created, by 1965, a program called Mini Teatro Infantil Rural, where they train puppeteers, many different groups of puppeteers, and they would take it around the island to every single school in the island and bring puppet shows. For that, he hires and he brought an amazing puppeteer from the United States called George Lachot to go and train for 3 years, 3 different summers, to train young people who who love puppetry or who wanted to learn puppetry. And from that, they created 9 companies that will go and perform different shows throughout the island. The activity was amazing, if you look at the amount of performances that they did in a year, was close to 3,000 or even surpassed the 3,000 performances. That was actually incredible, that in a day there will be 3 to 10 performances, and they will go to 2 or 3 different schools in a day. Really amazing. And that's really what I call the beginning of puppetry in Puerto Rico. And started right here. We have a paying homage to Leopoldo Santiago Lavandero. Jose Lopez did this amazing rod puppet. And because we believe, and I call him that he's probably the father of theater education in Puerto Rico, therefore also one of the fathers of puppetry in Puerto Rico. Going back to the training sessions, the students were, Mario Donate was one of those. Our maestro Mario Donate was one of the students. They created a production called Pluf el Fantasmita, and using the techniques that George Lachaud taught them, they created a full production of Pluf, which is a Brazilian show by Maria Clara Machado, very popular in Latin America, that story. So we have 3 puppets, 3 hand puppets of the original training with George Lachaud. And as well, in this first part of the first generation, we're also paying homage and showing the work of Mario Donate, which is also one of our biggest names of puppetry in Puerto Rico. And he sent us beautiful pictures of shadow puppets of the show. En el fondo del caño hay un negrito, and La noche que volvimos a ser gente. 2 stories from Puerto Rican literature and that he brought to the stage. Actually was in the 1980s. So that's our first vitrine. We continue here. Another amazing puppeteer that wasn't actually part of those training, because the majority of the companies that we have that came out from this first generation, they emerged from the workshops that George Lachaud and Lavandero provided. But we also have another amazing puppeteer that continues performing today and creating, many of you know, in Puerto Rico, nuestra querida Tere Marichal. Tere Marichal is also part of this first generation of puppeteers in Puerto Rico. But like I said, she wasn't part of the training with George Lachaud. She was actually in Barcelona with her sister studying, and she studied there with 2 amazing puppeteers and marionetistas, Pepe Otal and Harry Goza. And Tere continues. La conocemos, I'm going to say this in Spanish, la conocemos muchos de ustedes la conocen por Maria Chusema, which was an amazing TV show that she had for 22 years, where she brought almost every single puppeteer in Puerto Rico went through her program. But she continues performing, doing storytelling with puppetry as well, and combining many different techniques and doing political theater, not only doing shows for children, but also for adults. And she started at the end of the 60s, during the 70s, doing this kind of work in Puerto Rico. So we have some hand puppets of Tere. And do you want to talk a little bit, Deborah, about the work of Tere? It will be great, so I can breathe.
So here we have, these are puppets that were created for a puppet slam that we have in Puerto Rico that happens during what we call the Titeretada, which is an independent adult puppetry festival. And so Tere created these puppets that talked about La Promesa, and in English, we say the blood-sucking debt. And all of these puppets were used in this performance, very short, with other people. And it was about the situation, the current situation in Puerto Rico, with the oversight board, la Junta de Control. And then this beautiful piece here, which can go round and round, talks really about migration. It talks about the tragedy of people having to flee their homes It talks about enslaved people, and they're kind of two sides of a very, very tragic and unjust story, and the tragic things that happen. So this is Tere, and now I'll turn it over to Manuel.
Thank you. Thank you for that break. I needed to drink a little bit of water. So let's continue with the third. Let me move the, yes, very good. So another iconic group from Puerto Rico that belongs to that first generation that continues till today working, and they have gone through different generations of puppeteers, is El Mundo de los Muñecos. El Mundo de los Muñecos, creado and founded by Virgemina Ortiz and Rafael Ortiz. They both are deceased. They were actually people that I look up to, Virgemina and Rafael, Don Rafa. And Jose Lopez, that I keep mentioning him, he was actually our puppet master in Teatro Sea for many years, for almost 3 decades. He started with El Mundo de los Muñecos. He's also part of this family. It's a group, it's a company created by a family. So the papá, mamá, los hermanos, los primos, everybody was part of El Mundo de los Muñecos. And here, Jose paid homage to Don Rafa with one hand puppet, un bocón. There are also, 2 different puppets from actually 3 different puppets from 3 different periods of the company. The first one is Gepetto. Gepetto was part of a production of Pinocchio, and it was a Puerto Rican Pinocchio. And this is the first Puerto Rican production who won the UNIMA citation of excellence in the 80s. And they did, it's a fantastic show. I actually remember that show when I was a kid. I actually went to see that show. And we also have another period of the company, one beautiful puppet created by Noelia Ortiz, which is one of the members of the family, of the Ortiz family, and of El Mundo de los Muñecos, Pajareo Boricua. So she created a beautiful pitirre, and she uses coconuts and different materials from Puerto Rico to create the puppets. And then more recently, La Dama de Noche, which was a production that they usually perform for children, but this production was actually for adults. And they created a beautiful rod puppet in Dama de Noche, which was a show. The show was called El Viaje, I remember. And it showed that dealt with the issue of suicidal. So they did a beautiful job. So we can see actually 4 different periods in the company, in one of the iconic companies of Puerto Rico, El Mundo de los Muñecos. We continue. Yes, let's continue. Let's just go to the first cubicle right here, or the first pedestal, I would say. And this is a dear puppet to me because I have performed with this puppet for many, many years. This is Juan Bobo. In Puerto Rico, we don't have a national puppet like they have in Cuba, like they have in Europe, in many different countries. I have, for many years, I have said that, yes, we do. We have not recognized it officially, but I think that for us, for many puppeteers, and I think Juan Bobo is probably our most iconic puppet because, even from the 50s, from Andrés Quiñones Vizcarrondo, which, is one of the earliest, stories that I have found, in Puerto Rican puppetry. He was also representing Juan Bobo. But many, many different companies have used the character of Juan Bobo, which is a folkloric character from the oral traditions of Puerto Rico. Un jibarito, buenazo, and funny, and also very innocent, that represents, our people from the countryside of Puerto Rico. And this is actually created by Jose Lopez. Again, he was our puppet master for many years, for a show called El Encuentro de Juan Bobo y Pedro Animal, The Encounter of Juan Bobo and Pedro Animal. Juan Bobo from Puerto Rico, Pedro Animal from the Dominican Republic. I directed and wrote this show, and I performed with this puppet. I was Juan Bobo for many, many years. So we decided to actually, when you walk in the first gallery, to have Juan Bobo welcome all of you. We continue. Very important puppets as well. Two Vejigantes. Vejigantes is probably the expression, the Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Puerto Rican expression of the Carnaval, of Nuestra Negrura, and is part of our, our culture. And I think this, this is probably, they're puppets too. They're masks, but they're also puppets. And these two puppets, it's an amazing story. They are for a show called Bembe o El Milagro de Santiago. And they were created in the 70s by the Department of Education. And they perform in not only in Puerto Rico, but also in Atlanta. And there they were selected to go to the World Puppet Festival in the 1980s at the Kennedy Center, which is the first time and the only time that Puerto Rico have performed in a UNIMA World Congress. And this festival was produced by Nancy Stout and Jean Hemson at the Kennedy Center. So the Puerto Ricanos, we brought our Vejigantes, our bomba, and our Afro Puerto Rican culture to Washington, D.C. And these two puppets are part of that show. Very important for us, the heads of the Vejigantes are made of coconut, and they're made by Castor Ayala from the famous and iconic family artisans of masks from Loíza, the Ayala family. And the puppet itself, it was actually constructed by Rafael Ruiz, who was one of the original puppeteers of the Mini Teatro Infantil Rural of the Department of Education. Continue. Venga, Deborah, now I want you to talk about this stunning puppet created by Deborah Hunt. And with this, we are entering into our second generation of puppeteers that goes from the 1981 to 1999. Deborah, talk to us about it.
Okay. Gracias, Manuel. Pues yo llegué titiritera y mascarera desde 1973 de Aotearoa, Nueva Zelanda. Llegué, I arrived in Puerto Rico in 1990 and began a series of workshops to this day, and people joined me. So slowly community has built. So this was the puppet I made for a workshop called Cabeza para arriba. So they stand on top of the head and they parade in comparsas, interventions in the street. And there are about 7 of us, and each person made their own major character kind of mask that sits on the head. And on top of that, each person could create a scene about something that interested them or preoccupied them. And this is what happened. So I have here it's kind of like migration. It's talking about migration. It's talking about people having to leave home, people continuing into the future with their house on their head, their past with them. And of course, talking about the terribly dangerous boat voyages that happen. And this is happening all over the world. And it happens in Puerto Rico from the Dominican Republic, where people risk their lives trying to get somewhere else. So this is a puppet mask, body puppet, I'm not too sure what you call, that parades. And it was very, very beautiful to see a whole series of them in the street. And we continue into the second generation. Manuel.
Yes, thank you. This amazing puppet actually is welcoming us to the second gallery of the Ballard Museum of Puppetry. And in the second gallery, we continue with the second generation, third and fourth generation. And we're welcomed by Oberon and Puck from the production of Teatro Sea Sueño, which was the Latino take on Midsummer's Night Dream of Shakespeare. And they were designed and created by Jose Lopez. And with the help of many people, many puppeteers that are also, we're going to see here their work, Edward Cardenales, Luis Villafañe, and many other people that help us put together this incredible production with giant puppets and over 65 puppets and objects in that amazing show that we performed actually in Puerto Rico in 2015 at El Morro, and also have performed it here in New York and in Washington, D.C. as well. The puppets are made out of cardboard with, covered with liquid plastic. And I want them to, the whole production was actually, integrating the Afro-Caribbean music and idiosyncrasies and our colors. So everything was, all the puppets were like us, brown, and at the same time, in a white universe. It was kind of like all the costumes and the set was white, but the performers and the puppet and the color of skin of the puppets and it was black to highlight our culture. The music that was played was bomba, was palo from Dominican Republic, was we had actually curoleao. We have many different music expressions from the Afro-Caribbean and Afro culture in Latin America. And they were, like I said, we started working on these puppets on 2014. And then we had to do another batch, I would say, of puppets, because when we were coming from Puerto Rico, and the puppets were made in Puerto Rico, by the way, we performed in New York, we went back to Puerto Rico to perform. And when they were being shipped back, half of them didn't arrive. They got lost. So I believe, and I keep saying this is very Shakespearean, that they got lost in the sea, like in the Tempest. So we had the opportunity with Jose and with other puppeteers to start again. And these actually are part of the second the second puppets that we made of Sueño. So stunning production, stunning puppet, and it's welcoming us. It's kind of like, how high is this? Close to 15 feet? Yeah, 14 feet. And so this is a giant parade puppet, and then Puck is a body puppet. The puppeteer manipulates, the arms, but it's actually attached to the body of the puppeteer. So wherever the puppeteer walks, the puppet walks. We continue with the second generation. And again, I'm going to call La Maestra Deborah Hunt to this actually is quite dear to me, because I was actually part of the process when Deborah was actually creating Nemesina, a stunning puppet.
During the pandemic, as I'm sure people all over the world were doing, we were sharing skills and we were learning new things. And I had the opportunity to study at Manuel also a workshop of Carolina Pimentel in Mexico. And it was about making hybrid puppets out of warbler. So Nemesina here is the first of 3 characters. As you see, she has one hand here. And the other one is empty, because I operate this with my left hand and my right hand fits into the sleeve here. And so she is placed in front of me. So she's one of 3, a work in progress that later on, after May 22, it will continue, of 3 sisters who work in an ancient library. And she is the personification of memory. Her other sisters are oblivion and sexual liberation. So after May, they come alive. Now over here, we have part of the exhibit of Agua Sol y Sereno, our colleagues in Puerto Rico, and Agua Sol y Sereno of the similar generation specialize in these beautiful, magnificent cabezudos, big heads. And Pedro has, Agua Sol y Sereno must have 60 of these. So when they all parade together in the street, they're really a wondrous thing. And this is a cabezudo of Oscar Lopez, a political prisoner for 35 years, an icon of the struggle for liberation, for independence for Puerto Rico. And so he was Agua Sol y Sereno and many other people did acts to help along the process of his liberation. which did happen. And now we go to the third generation. Let's go this way over to the third generation.
Could I mention that some of our special guests, so Fanny Hanan from Puerto Rican Latin American Cultural Center, who's co-sponsoring the event, and also our friend Nefri Ameni, who's
Oh my goodness.
directing a production here at University of Connecticut. Oh, come on.
Come in.
Hi.
And actually,
Buenas noches.
puppet that Nefri made was in this spot for our Living Objects African American Puppetry exhibition. I will get out of the way. Thank you.
You want to say something here?
Sure, yes. Buenas noches. Good evening. It's so great to see you, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Es un placer verlos. Fanny de Jesús Hanon, directora de nuestro Centro Puertorriqueño Latinoamericano aquí en la Universidad de Connecticut. Y es un honor. Bienvenidos al artista Morán y también a Deborah Hunt. So, estamos muy contentos de tenerlos y muchísimas gracias. Son muy talentosos. Bienvenidos nuevamente. Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias. Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that, Pedro Adorno and the group Agua Sol y Sereno, Pedro was part, and Kathy, I believe, they were part of Bread and Puppet for a while. And, many of their techniques of Bread and Puppet, you can actually see them in the work of Agua Sol y Sereno. So let's continue now with our third generation, Deborah.
Okay, so we've seen from the first generation the style of puppets, we've seen the second generation where there's three different kind of roads, one influenced by Bread and Puppet, one of Teatro Sea and Manuel Morán, and another of myself, a kind of strange oddball vertigente. And so what we're going to see here are some of my very dear friends and comrades and colleagues, and who perhaps began also as my students. And with the idea of teaching people, people become your colleagues. And it is my great pleasure to introduce these folks. So here we have the work of Brenda Plumet. And this was from a piece from a project called Sobre la Mesa. And it is an ongoing puppet slam where each person is given an identical object. They go away, they create their small piece. The small pieces are performed in small kind of kiosks within a labyrinth of cloth. The audience comes in, there's 6 or 7 people, they see a show, a music comes on, and they move to the next kiosco. So this is Brenda's piece called Fuacata. And here, we're seeing the caja removed, because this is a lambe lambe piece, normally in a box with a hole. And this was something that started really lambe lambe in Brazil. So people could listen, there'd be a set of earphones, they could listen and they would look through the little hole to see this little scene that maybe only lasts 2 minutes. And so this was Venus, this woman, older woman, bathing and imagining herself to be a mermaid, to be many, many things. We continue. And here, my dear friends and colleagues, Inoa Bialuz. And these 2 teatrinos are from their production of Circo de la Ausencia. And they are a group, a collective. They work together. They don't have a director. They work collectively, and they are concerned with the migrations that happened and are happening in Puerto Rico after the Promesa, after earthquakes, hurricanes, all the kinds of things that we experience in Puerto Rico. So these are beautiful little toy theaters that capture moments of this experience. And then we continue moving. Perhaps we can move to...
I don't know if you want to see this from the other side.
Okay, so we'll keep moving here and here of this generation also. And this is the work of Edward Cardenales, who worked with Teatro Sea. So here are his beautiful puppets of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, a classic tale. And there are the puppets, beautiful. And then here we have another compañero, Santin. And so Santin, these are puppets also, these are puppets of foam. And this is the chupacabra, which in Puerto Rico, we know in English, apparently it's a goat sucker. And so it's this mythical, terrible thing that lays waste to animals and sucks their blood. And every now and again, there's a wave of chupacabra action. So this is the puppet. This is one of the puppets of Santin. And this is another, this is another of his puppets, a jester of the same show. So now, or should we go into the corner here? Okay, now we're just organizing. Huh?
About the phone.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to add that we, as you see many different influences, into the puppets in Puerto Rico. We also had another American puppeteer, Bruce Chese, who went to Puerto Rico, brought by the Department of Education to do workshops, and he brought with him los emponjaditos, which are basically foam puppets that were like bocones, to create bocones, and many puppeteers actually adopted that technique for many years. And so during the 80s, many of the pioneer companies, and as well as like the emerging groups, were using that material, which I think Filippo Tirado and Jose Lopez are actually masters, and now actually have inherited that. Luis Villafañe, which we are going to see, but also Edward Cardenales did beautiful, for many years, also many beautiful foam puppets as well. So you see different styles. You see papel mache, and you also see foam puppets. Marionettes, we don't have that many marionettes in Puerto Rican puppetry, unfortunately, but Deborah actually is with her workshops and all that, bringing that back. El Mundo de los Muñecos also used to do marionettes in their early stages. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. Let's continue with our third generation.
Third generation. Okay, so here we have the work of Papel Machete. Papel Machete is a workers' street theater and work and community company, and their work is always political. It's always very, very current. And this is for this piece here was for a Titeretada Noches de Cabaret, and talks of Julia Keller and her disastrous effect on Puerto Rican education when she tried to sell off schools and convert schools to charter schools. So there's a huge, and I mean, she stole, there's nothing good I can say about this woman. So here is, we have the Teachers Federation, who fought against schools were closed, and then children were expected to be in fogones. How do you say fogones? Containers with their classrooms. And we'll see later on over the other side, the teachers protesting, and the police that were brought in to crush everything. So it's a very dramatic and very pertinent struggle that's still going on, actually. Here we have another dear friend of mine, Marianne Hopgood. Marianne Hopgood is an activist, a puppeteer, and her work is always political. These were made for Titeretada Noches de Cabaret, different, no, I'm sorry, these were made for Sobre la Mesa, other editions of Sobre la Mesa. So we all, so here you see this, you are what you eat, her whole thing, her whole comment about the sale of cardboard food in Puerto Rico. And here is another piece of hers that is called The Immortal Scientist. and the importance of water. So this talks about the importance of water. So all of her work is always political and always has something to do with the environment. So you can see this is an old vanity case that's been converted. Everybody was given a tap, a faucet, and this is what Marianne did with hers. And if we turn around, so we're going to turn around to, we're now going to be talking about the fourth generation. And the fourth generation also displays an incredible variety of puppets. And what you see here, this huge backpack puppet, is by Poncili Creación. They are twins who have gone on another whole journey, another whole path with foam that is extraordinary. And this puppet, for instance, they moved in Puerto Rico and also in the barrio in New York, moving all of these different signs that you can see have to do with their political beliefs. And so they do very, very, very pertinent, very colorful, very outrageous puppetry. And this is their magnificent piece. And now we're going to come here to the work of Luis Villafañe. And he's incredibly special also. Manuel, would you like to talk about Luis for a minute?
Luis, hola Luis, que sé que estás viendo, and all the fans of Titi Gandinga. We have Titi Gandinga here in our exhibition. Luis Villafañe is a puppeteer that he's a mentor, and actually he's one of his idols, as he called it, is Jose Lopez actually, and is part of the fourth generation. Luis have been doing puppetry for many years now, also using the technique of bocones or Muppet style, but using the foam, following the tradition actually of many puppeteers in Puerto Rico. And he brought, he sent us two beautiful pieces. One is Atabey from the Taino goddess, and it's the god of fresh water and fertility. And he made it with fun. I think it's a beautiful piece. And the famous Titi Gandinga. Titi Gandinga is actually one of his new characters that he actually created along with Jose Lopez, with his mentor. And Titi Gandinga, you actually have become quite famous with many young people. And she has a program on YouTube. You can follow Luis y sus Muñecos, and almost every day Luis creates an episode with Titi Gandinga and many other, and she's like a Pentecostal woman from El Barrio, that always her knees are always hurting, and she's always saying to God, why? ¿Por qué tanta prueba? So it's really, it's an amazing, I'm very proud of Luis. Luis also is a puppeteer of Teatro C as well in Puerto Rico and in New York. Have collaborated and has created puppets for us too. So congratulations, Luis, because you're doing amazing stuff for young generation now. And there's a lot of people now that follow Titi Gandinga, and we're lucky to have her here. Deborah, you want to continue with Daniel?
And here we have the work of Daniel Ocasio. As you can see, it's beautifully executed. It's very kind of beautifully drawn, beautifully executed. And Daniel is by profession a draftsman. So this is why you see these fantastic pieces. And he is a minister, and he works and produces his work for his church. So he is a kind of leader of the ministry of puppets. And as you can see here, marionette, and as Manuel was saying, not so many people are working with marionettes. So he's teaching another whole generation an appreciation of puppetry beautifully. Okay, and we will continue over here to Vuelta Abajo. Okay, dear friends, also, Vuelta Abajo are based on the west coast in Mayagüez of Puerto Rico. There they have their base called Taller Libertad, and they're incredibly important as a base on the west coast. So not everything is in San Juan. They have this fantastic center which they have created and have lasted through hurricanes, through all the things that we experience in Puerto Rico, earthquakes. And here you see there's these two old men, and it's really a piece about ternura, tenderness. They sit, they talk, they share coffee. And the other wonderful thing about Vuelta Abajo is they began a few years ago, I think there may be 3 or 4 seasons, of Circo en la Plaza. So in the plaza of Mayagüez, they would turn it into this, there'd be cloth hung everywhere, and many performers, including myself, I proudly say, would perform there for free, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people would come. So it was an alternative circus, puppet, music, live music of made up instruments. It's an incredible work that they're doing in Mayagüez and continuing. And then just to kind of finish off here, as I said before, as with all kinds of puppeteers all over the world, when the first lockdowns happened, all our work disappeared. Our contracts disappeared, international touring disappeared, and we had to reinvent ourselves. And that's precisely what happened. And so here you just see, it's a kind of just 10, it's not all puppeteers, but you see the different kinds of things that people did, created. They had to make, we all became filmmakers. I had, for instance, contracts with the Instituto de Cultura, and they said, as they said to Vuelta Abajo and other people, if you can convert your work into films, we'll honor the contracts. So we all became filmmakers. And what you see here you see the wonderful Los Grises de Manuel Morán. And these are hybrid puppets, much like Nemesina. And here's the work of Marianne Hopgood, Vuelta Abajo, Papel Machete, Brenda Plumet, Tere Marechal, Mundo de los Muñecos, Ponsili, who converted an entire truck into a puppet. This whole thing moves and opens and performs. Inoa Bialuz and myself. So what we have here, 4 generations with a fantastic introduction of Pura de Belpré. And we also have this kind of testimony to the continuance of puppetry in Puerto Rico. Manuel.
Also, I want to add that, you know, when you see the exhibition, we also have 3 different screens that we're going to be presenting pieces of a documentary that I did that we actually premiered in Puerto Rico a few years ago. It's called Títeres en el Caribe Hispano, Episodio 3, Puerto Rico. And it's part of of 3 different documentaries about, you know, puppetry in the Caribbean. Obviously, we are featuring here pieces of the documentary, especially the piece of puppetry in Puerto Rican television. So one of the screens is dedicated to that. Then we have another one that talks about the origins of puppetry in Puerto Rico. And then the other screen is, you know, a combination of many. Actually, you can see many of these puppets that are in our exhibit, in our exhibition, in action. So we have pieces, not only photos, but also videos of many of the shows where these puppets were performed. So I am very happy, Deborah, that we did this together. It was a lot of work, but we're very happy. We want to say thank you to the Ballard Museum and to John, who's a colleague and a friend that I admire, for inviting us to do this. And it's actually a historical exhibition that because it's the first time that we put these 4 generations together, and there's a lot of puppeteers that are missing, you know, so in this exhibition. And our hope is that all of you can come to see it, and also that we can actually talk and see if we can bring this to San Juan or to Puerto Rico and to other places, to New York. So because people need to all learn about what's happening in Puerto Rican puppetry. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manuel. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks to everybody here. I wanted to just to remind you that this Saturday at 11 o'clock, Saturday the 20th, we will be presenting online the Pura Bel Pre project by Teatro Sea. And please go to our Facebook page or our Ballard Institute website, and you'll find information about how to see that. And then 2 weeks from now on Thursday, December 2nd, there'll be a puppet forum with Manuel and Deborah and Tere Marichal and with Pedro Adorno. I wanted to ask Matt. Matt, please step into the picture. Matt, with your cable, he's holding the cable. And also Emily Wicks, please step in here. Please step in here. So these are people who are doing all the work. So thank you. And thanks to our selected audience. And thanks everybody for watching. We hope you can all come, as Manuel was saying, and see this in person and see the other programming we're going to do. It's such a pleasure and an honor to host this work. Thank you. So we turn off the camera now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Adios. Bye-bye. Felicidades.